Good morning. Today is August 15th in the year of our Lord 2024. I'm Reverend Susan Smith, and you are joining me for Thursday morning, a reading from my book, Rest for the Justice Seeking Soul. And I'm glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you. And thank you for the comments that you put in. I don't get to them until afterward. I don't look at comments and things in real time. And I suppose I should train myself to do it, but I just don't do it that way. But I try to get to your comments after I get to looking at the broadcast a little bit later in the day. And I just want to say thank you for those who are showing up and just appreciative. You can watch us also on YouTube. I think this comes on our YouTube channel, and if it doesn't, I'll make sure that it gets on there. But I'm glad that you're here, and I would really like for you, if it is on YouTube, to like it and subscribe and tell your other friends and family to do it as well. That's going to be very helpful for us. Um, but for those of you who have been faithful and you keep on coming back, I'm making you my virtual BFFs. I just really appreciate the support. I really do. My first question before we get started for today is, have you checked your voter registration? Voter registration. Have you gone to vote.org and checked your registration? And the reason I'm saying that is because voter suppression is real. The other side is going through a lot of machinations to try to make sure that people's capacity and ability to vote are hampered or prevented. I've heard more than a couple of people say when they've gone to that site to check out to see if they are registered voters, and they are assuming that they are because they've been voting for a long time. And people have come back to me and said, "Well, I'm glad you gave us that link because I checked my registration and they say that my information has been suspended or we can't find it or whatever." So they're doing it in time enough to correct, I'll put it in air quotes, correct what's going on. But the point is that if you don't check your voter registration and you show up to vote on election day, or you even try to early vote, you won't be able to do it, and that can't happen. What we absolutely need is for everybody to vote. Everybody to vote. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I know who I'm voting for. I'm not telling you who to vote for, but I'm saying everybody register. And if there are early voting dates in your state, please take advantage of them because we anticipate that there are going to be long, long lines, even during early voting. I remember here in Ohio when we were voting to prevent abortion rights from being the law of the state. Those lines were so long, and it was hot outside. It was hot, but when people understand how important their vote is, when they understand that their vote has power, people show up. When I tell you that those lines were around the building, I am not fooling. Almost lapping itself, those lines, because the lines are so long. But people were in good spirits. They were determined to use their privilege to vote. And that's what I'm saying, is that we should all use the privilege to vote. In this election, there's not going to be, it's just so dangerous for so many reasons. So the goal is to make the numbers of people so great that the results of the election cannot be disputed. Election deniers and people associated with the um, the MAGA Republican Party are putting people in places, and vote deniers in places, and secretaries of state offices, and doing what they can to make sure that they have someone there to help maybe prevent the certification of the votes. All of that is going on. Their imaginations have much less power when we, the people, show up in masses. I'm hoping that you're talking about it to your friends and family. I'm hoping that you are telling people who say, "I'm not going to vote," and tell them that's a vote for the other side, which is what they want. I'm hoping that you are ingesting the joy and the new excitement with Vice President Kamala Harris and um, Governor Tim Walz, but I also want you to be cautious and not get overjoyed too much so that you stop working and fighting. We still have to knock on doors. We still have to text people. We still have to write people. We still have to talk to people. Just yesterday, I was in a place, a very posh office, to talk to someone, and we were, me and the woman who was, I was waiting, like the office administrator. We were talking, and she asked me what I did, and I told her, and I just casually said, it worked to get information out about Project 2025, and she said, "What's that?" And I thought, man, You're working in this posh office and you don't know what Project 2025 is. So I began to explain it to her, and as much as I could without boring her to death. But I could see that she was concerned. That's what you want. You want people to read it or know about it so that they can be concerned in whatever way they're going to be concerned. And she just kind of leaned forward, tell me more, tell me more. And I talked to her until I was called into was my meeting, and so she said, I'm going to look that up. And I said, good. And I sure did give her the website address, project2025.org, project2025.org. If you have not gone to that site, you should. Or if you want to go to a site that lists the key points of the chapters, you can go to stopthecoup2025.org. It's an excellent site where you can get a lot of information quickly, because Project 2025 is 922 pages, and ain't nobody gonna read all that. But somebody better read something and know this is what I want you to do. Read it and understand how the changes that are being proposed, I mean, just overhauling everything in this government, how will they affect you in your life? That's a lesson I learned when I was working with People for the American Way with our teacher and our leader, Reverend Leslie Malachi Wilson. And she stressed that. She said, people won't vote until they understand how their vote matters in their lives. And even though many people think that their votes don't matter, it's up to you to find the stories and find the narrow, teeny margins that people win by, and how it has affected the lives of certain groups of people. So we need to do that, because if I think that this Project 2025 stuff is going to affect my family, my capacity, for instance, to put my young kid in Head Start because they want to eliminate that, I'm going to go vote. You hear what I'm saying? If I think that I, as an older person, am not going to have access to Social Security benefits, or Medicare, but especially Social Security benefits when I've been working all my life. And you're telling me that what they're trying to do to take, now you've heard it, but you need to see it in writing. They're trying to take that away. Yeah, when people think that, they say, "Oh no, I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote." That's what we want, and having casual conversations about it, just wherever you are. I'm telling you, I find so many people who don't know anything about it. And I'm not talking about grade school, middle school kids. They actually, middle school, high school kids tend to know about it. They're on it. They're doing campaigns on TikTok and all over the place. It's the older people who don't, the ones who think, oh, they ain't gonna mess with my vote. I've been voting for 25 years. You better check it. And I am asking people to check their voter registration once a week. Just do it. Just do it to see if you're still on the rolls because the purging is going on, or to see if your polling place has been changed. Check it every week and tell everyone you know to do the same. So there we are. My rant this morning was not really a rant. It's just telling people to do what you need to do to take advantage of the privilege to vote. The other side is getting frantic because they don't really know how to handle Vice President Kamala Harris and Governor Walz on this campaign. They planned for 3 years, how they were going to take Joe Biden out. They were going to use his age, and they were doing it, and they were sure that they had the election locked up. And then, due to pressure from many people, some of whom are denying, or some organizations which are denying it, President Joe Biden decided that he would not seek the nomination, and he did it his way. He said, and if I'm going to do that, what y'all going to do is take Vice President Kamala Harris as the presumptive nominee. That's what y'all going to do. Y'all don't do that, I'm not doing this. And it worked. It worked. I had great respect for Joe Biden for doing it. It had to have been horribly difficult because he was a good president. He's old, but he was a good president. He did a lot of good things. So I had great respect for him. And I am really enthusiastic about Vice President Kamala Harris because, we get a relief from some of this toxic anger and hatred and racism and xenophobia that we've had ever since 2016. I don't know about you, but if I hear the sound of the former president's voice, I turn it down. I don't watch the news anymore. I get my news my information from reading, from podcasts and all that, but I don't watch the news. It's a waste of time. And I say that to you. If you are watching that stuff all the time, 24/7, stop it. Just stop, because our spirits need to be imbued or filled up with joy and expectation and anticipation and faith and all of that, you won't get it listening to this stuff on television. I think that it seems like feels like the legacy media, the so-called legacy media, are in the pocket of the big money people who are supporting MAGA. Supreme Court is a joke. It's been a joke historically, in and out of history, all throughout history, but it is a real joke right now. So I don't have any faith in them. And the federal court, there's a lot to have issues with. But I'm telling you this, that if MAGAs get into office, the things that they have in Project 2025, which many of them now are trying to deny, including the former president, are going to make your lives miserable. They are already implementing it. But what we want to do is stop it. And we want people to get into office who have the interests of the masses in their minds, the poor people, the LGBTQIA, the women, the blacks, the browns, the immigrants, all those people. We all matter. So that's what I'm telling you, to check your registration every single week. And if you come across, if you any of my listeners come across the line, a couple of my listeners have already shared that this has happened to them, that you've been voting for a long time and you've gone to that site and you find out that you have, they can't find your registration, or there's some issue with it and you have to redo your registration, please let me know. And please don't wait too late to check it, because the last day to register to vote is the fifth, I think it's the first Tuesday or Wednesday in October. So you have some time, but don't wait, because if you try to change something at the last minute, the change won't come through in time. Y'all hear me? We cannot wait. Okay, so anyway, thank you for tuning in this morning. The book that I wrote is Rest for the Justice Seeking Soul, and I started reading these meditations some time ago, and some of them I read again because there's only 90 of them in there, and I've been writing these meditations every Tuesday since I think 2013, inspired by some words of Reverend Bishop now. The Poor People's Campaign, Reverend Dr. Barber, and he said he had a story about how when his grandmother, you've heard me tell the story before, but how when he was young, his grandmother on Sunday after they had dinner would take food out, she and some neighbors, to the neighborhood, and he would ask, well, what y'all doing? And they would say, we're going to go hope, Hope. We're going to hope somebody. That I read that one day and I was stunned and taken and moved by it, and I started writing meditations on that day, which was a Tuesday. So that's why I still do Tuesday meditations. So there's a lot for us to think about in this work that we're doing to fight injustice, because it is a very, very, very difficult thing to do. It's like you're hitting rock that won't move. All it's doing is bruising your fingers and your knuckles. But I'm going to share this. The greatest lesson I learned from a young man here at Arabis Sundiata, where he said, we have power. We have to use our power. We have to claim our power and use our power. And the power that we have right now is organized people. They got a lot of money, but organized people can beat out organized money all the time. So in order to do that, in order to stay in the organizing, mobilizing frame of mind, you got to keep your spirit fed. And so that's why we do these meditations. So this week, I'm going to read to you the meditation that I did for this week, and it's called Finding and Keeping Your Joy. In our Monday evening Bible study this week, we discussed how in the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus teaches that there is reward and punishment for how we live our lives. And I asked my students if they could identify the rewards that God had given them. They paused and then one by one began to name the rewards. And I was expecting, like, oh, he gave me a new house, a new car, that kind of stuff. But they weren't material rewards that they listed and talked about. Not a single student said that he or she had been given a new car or a new house, even though I knew some of them had. What they shared were the gifts they have received by working and serving others. One student shared that her biggest reward was a good family, and she's a sharer. When I tell you she's a sharer, she shares. She gives from what she has to a lot of different places, a lot of different people. Another shared that her reward was peace, despite a horribly difficult time in her life. So I was stunned because I thought they would all lift up material things, but none of them did. We wrestled with the beatitude that says, blessed are you who are persecuted for righteousness for my sake, for yours is the kingdom of heaven. Uh, the reward would be the kingdom of heaven. But they were not very interested. They were not impressed in getting this reward. And most of them said that there was no way they would or have ever felt blessed when they were being persecuted or oppressed. But they did acknowledge that doing small things for people in need, giving something from within themselves because they had sensed or heard a need of another person and met it, gave them rewards that they had not anticipated and that were far more valuable than any material gift. So that sounded like joy to me. Joy comes when we do the smallest things for people, not for show or for accolades, but because we see a need and meet it. We are able to acquire spiritual or temporal wealth. So important. But the student shared indicated the wealth they had spiritually. When we invest in doing good, we gain the wealth, the joy that the world cannot take away. In Douglas Abrams' book, The Book of Joy Lasting Happiness in a Changing World, he talks about lasting joy. Joy is a way of being. And he said he witnessed that in the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu and His Holiness the Dalai Lama. He said their joy, apparently palpable to Abrams, was close to the shining contentment or the spiritual radiance born from deep well being and benevolence. End quote. Abrams then shared that the Institute of Neuroscience and Psychology at the University of Glasgow in Scotland suggests, quote, that there are really only four fundamental emotions, three of which are negative: fear, anger, and sadness. The only positive one is joy or happiness, end quote. If that kind of joy is nestled within our spirits, planted by God as a reward for hearing, seeing, and reaching out to the least of these, there is little the world can do to steal it. God put it there. There are efforts for sure, but it seems that implanted joy, come on now, somebody, implanted joy roots itself in our spirits and cannot be pulled out. It can suffer during the times of spiritual drought, like flowers that droop when they don't get enough water. It can be bent down during the storms of life. But once we direct our spirits and train them to look for and see, listen for and hear the cries of those in need, that joy can be watered back to life. It's like putting Miracle Grow on your plants. I don't know if you guys do that stuff. I put Miracle Grow on my plants, and I'm amazed at how they just sprout up. Um, and as I was thinking about that and Miracle Grow, how that does, I figured that this joy in us, watered by the Spirit of God, it's like a perennial plant. It might feel like it's dead and even look like it's dead, but just like a dead looking perennial comes back in the spring, sometimes fuller than it was before it faltered, our joy comes back. It is stubborn, it is tenacious, it's almost as if it has received a divine vaccination that keeps the wiles of life from killing it. In harsh political times, joy takes a beating. In our current politically chaotic time, the joy of many of us has seemed absent. But as newness has come into the political arena, joy has awakened in many Americans like perennials that looked dead. A spirit of joy and determination and hope has emerged and erupted from that dead space, and it is contagious. Blossoms of joy are erupting everywhere, pushing aside the sadness and the anger and the fear and all the other emotions that so many of us have been carrying. Joy will help us move on and move through any difficult time in our lives. Joy will not always make you smile. Hear me, it will not always make you smile, but joy will always keep you standing. The joy within us competes with the anger and sadness and fear that threaten us, and joy wins. Joy is the Simone Biles of our spiritual existence. It does things for us spiritually that no human or medication could ever give. On this day, go deep within yourself and find your joy. Thank God for it. Stay in the place where you found it and breathe in the Spirit of God, which will water it and make it thrive. And then go forward knowing that the perennial reward within you is growing and blooming regardless of what is going on in your life. Amen and amen. So I hope that meditation does something for you. I hope that if you didn't get it the first time, you go back and listen to it. And if it did do something for you, tell your friends and family and like it and subscribe. I'm going to make sure it's on our YouTube page. But I hope that you will do that today. If you want to be on our distribution list, you just need to email me at crazyfaith2019 at gmail.com. Crazyfaith2019 at gmail.com. And you need to email me your email address. Your name, your email address is all I need. And then you'll get a meditation every single week. If I get an email or 2 or 3 or 10, whatever today, of people today who want to be on that list. I'll put your names on today, and I will send you this meditation that I just read. I will send it to you today. Uh, so if you are being helped by these meditations, let me know. Um, and if you are being helped, tell some other people to join in as well. The joy that we have inside needs to be watered, and the joy that we have within us will help us to do the things that we have to do to maximize this life for ourselves and for our families and our loved ones and our communities. So that is it for today. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here with me on today. We'll see you next Thursday. I hope you have a wonderful weekend.